Have you ever wondered whether there is a connection and what could be that connection between you, the stars above, and the ground beneath your feet? In this video, we explore the game-changing events, unforgettable discoveries, and the key milestones that defined your history and my history as we journeyed across millions and millions, maybe trillions of times, of years, of moments, when we moved from before the Stardust to what we are today. And we will unveil the journey where you are going after this Stardust. Thank you for coming and passing by. Watch our video, watch the whole video, subscribe to our channel, leave a comment, share. If you are interested in studies, enroll into Bantu University and study Bantu Foundations, which will open your road and your route to study Afro mysteries. We want to thank you and say, let's walk this journey together. But before Stardust, where were you? What's the origin of matter? Who created matter and why? What is the African genesis? What are the African innovations? Calendars, mathematics, sculptures, and governance. What impact do they have? Are they having on your life today? Let's say it before the Big Bang. What was there? There was no time, matter, and anything but only the waters of Unyunyu, which are all potential with all possibilities, which science today call quantum soup, and they have proved that they exist. So that was what was there before the Big Bang. If you read our book Free from God, basically chapter 17, Revered Ancestors Home, we answer when matter was first created based on what we were taught and what we learned from Black Root Science, which is not a religion or a spirituality but a system of knowledge. An educative book by Elder Modi Moncho tells us that 78 trillion Earth years ago, that's when matter first came into being. In the beginning, there was nothing but a vast, featureless, large body of water. And this water is not the water that you drink, not the water that we see. The water that we see today is symbolic and points to these waters of Unyunyu. It's all potential and all possibilities. And out of that, the African god Atum or Atema, Atom by the Greeks, emerged in his hands, creating the egg-shaped cosmos in which our universe, one of trillions of universes, is found today. The example is shown by our ancient ancestors. So dust then appears 78 trillion years ago, 8 years ago, and out of the waters of Unyunyu, or out of all possibilities and all potential, a mound of the earth arose from the Unyunyu, and upon it Atema, later Amen or Ra, created himself, self-generated. These are primordial deities. He did not want to be alone, so he spat and produced air, shu, and moisture. Tafunya tu, shu and tafunya chu gave birth to the earth, guvu or ivu or meta, that you can say earth today, and it's a habitable nature. And then the sky, Nyute, guvu and Nyute were then separated. These are dimensions now coming into being from the perspective of one who lives on the earth. And the primordial gods then 4.5 billion years ago recreated a human being who looks like you and me today, Kunum, Hekekwi, and Isisu. So if you want to know these cycles that our ancestors taught, creation cycles, Atema stood on the single mount on the earth, the gods Kunum, Isusu, and Heketi and Hekwete created humans. And this is where we are, our current standard. That's where we live here. We are about to return to the chaos, to the primeval waters, and the great wheel is about to turn. So you must transform your current consciousness so that you escape the big wheel trap. This is important and critical because they also teach about continents. But when they teach about continents, they want you to think that these continents are separate. But our ancestors knew better. This mound was single. So in Latin, they used to know continere, meaning to hold together, enclose, one, not many. They can call it Pangaea, they can call it Gondwanaland, they can call it Jurassic, they can call it Cretaceous. Those were now the tectonic movements born out of Africa, the mound that first appeared out of the waters of Nyunyu. It is very clear and very important that this mound that appeared was in southern Africa. This part where you get the Cape Val Craton between Zimbabwe and South Africa. That area, so-called SADC area today. Also in West Australia, Pilbara. In South India, in Madagascar, in Antarctica, they are the cratons. What are cratons? Cratons are those stable portions of the continental crust that proves that the tectonic drifting that is occurring does not affect those people or areas that are there, but it can split out of that craton. The legend of the primordial deity Matsieng, who created beings that left footmarks when rocks were soft, tells us that 4.5 billion years ago, the gods recreated us, put us on the earth, and from that time, we started to live on the earth, and we started to develop and improve. There we are, 3 billion years old, collectibles found in South Africa. These are made of chromium. They are not natural. Some skeptics say these are natural. No, they are not natural. You can see straight lines here. They were machined by very specific machinery. You can say 2 billion years ago, the oldest nuclear plant was operating in the Gabon, Oklo, in Central Africa. Watch our video, Impossible African Scientific Feat. And it is because of this ability of nuclear plant that we will now come to realize why the Sahara emerged. Because before that, the whole of Africa was full of life without any desert. As we can see, the Sphinx 800,000 years ago was made by our ancestors, Horema Kuti, and we were already there after the kleptospheres, after the nuclear plant. Everything was still operating perfectly. And well, our ancestors 430,000 years ago began iron mining and making a steel. And there is also more evidence that the oldest known cave paintings are not 35,000 years old as has been thought, but they are almost 400,000 years old. They are found in Zambia, Southern Africa, same place with Matsieng, same place with kleptospheres, same place with the nuclear plant. And the ink or the pigment that they used, the oldest pigment that they used, is very, very, very scientific. And the paintings also were so well observed, so well reserved, so realistic, to the point that they could see animals and extinct animals that were there during that time. So this is part of Africa which is often associated with the emergence of modern humans. In Rabotswana is also another place where we are told that humanity emerged. The ancient melanin-dominant human beings, whom we call the Grimaldi Negroid in scientific terms, arrived in Europe about 330,000 years ago and populated the whole of Europe. We are showing them here. We know that out of Africa, the migration continued 130,000 years later. Melanin-dominant human beings were scattered in Asia. What we know is that melanin-dominant human being appeared on the earth maybe more than 3 billion years ago, because 2.8 billion years, kleptospheres were manufactured, nuclear power plant, and we know that the white skin is only 8,500 years old, because it appeared at that time. You can study genetics. This is scientific. Asians appeared only about 15,000 years ago. Before 15,000 years ago, it was only melanin-dominant human beings on the planet Earth. Sheikh Anta Diop, one of our eminent scholars, in his book Civilization of Barbarism and Authentic Anthropology, teaches us that appearance of the yellow race 15,000 years ago at the very earliest, perhaps during the Mesolithic age bordering on the Neolithic age, resulting in the interbreeding of melanin-dominant human beings and melanin-recessive beings in cold climate. He tells us also that 5,000 years ago, there were no human beings on the earth known as the Semites. But 2,400 years ago, the first Semites started to appear. Semite means a mixed. When you ask the question, which is the oldest world religion, they tell you that is Hinduism. They list all of these religions, but they don't tell you about ancient Hamitic religion, do they? Or Egyptian religion, if I might say. Was it a religion or not? They don't tell you that. So the journey from Stardust to today, back to Stardust, should remove all the lies and should give us the fairest of all facts. And when you ask the question, which is the oldest religion, you must know that 70,000 years ago, there was a sacred religion that revered the python. Where? In Africa. Which part? In Southern Africa. Where? Botswana. Where? Matieng. Where? The nuclear power plant appeared. Where? We also have the spheres. Very, very important milestones. 17,850 years, Africans cultivated and harvested barley and acorn wheat in the Nile Valley. 15,000 years ago, Africans in Kenya started to domesticate cattle. 12,000 years ago, Siberian rules in pre-dynastic Hamid. 10,000 years ago, the first calendar, the astronomical calendar, appeared, connecting us to the star Orion. And then 4,241 BCE, our ancestors invented now the solar calendar. About 35,000 years ago, the Lebombo bone found and the Ishango bone found in Africa, both of them prove that we already invented the numbers. Mathematics, we are already on it. African priests explained to the Greeks who came later that they were young, that European civilization is young. At that point, one of the priests, a very old man, Shinofuse, said, "Oh, Solon, Solon." This Solon, his name in our actual language, melanin dominant language, is Soronya. Soronya means empty head, one who is dumb. "Oh, Solon, Solon, you Greeks are always children. There is not such a thing as an old Greek, because the whole earth had melanin dominant human beings. Other people appeared 15,000 years ago, 8,500 years ago." So the priest was correct there. And then when Soronya heard this, he asked, "What do you mean?" The priest said, "You are young in soul, every one of you Europeans, for you possess not a single belief that is ancient and derived from old tradition, primordial, no, is your understanding grey with age. And this is the cause." Listen to this, what Chinofuse says now. "There have been and there will always be many and diverse destructions of humankind. The greatest destructions will be by fire and water, and the lesser ones by countless other means." So he explains a lot of examples there, which we ask you to go and into to understand them. And it is from this priest that they spoke of Atlantis, which appeared 9,000 years BCE. What we know is that Hamid is older than Babylon, or Sumer is also older than India, than many other places. And Ethiopia, Kush, is older than both. And like I said, the Greeks stole everything from us. There is the image 8,000 years ago, 8,000 years BCE, when Siberian 3 ruled in pre-dynastic Hamid. We know that 2,900 Kush reinvaded and established the kingdoms of Elam in the Empire of Persia. 2,500 years ago, Indus Valley civilization in India, with the Dravidians from Africa, founded and built civilizations. We know that there were already other people that had already been there, melanin dominant human beings, Negrito, so we here, who had already been there 130,000 years ago, as well as in America is the Olmecs 130,000 years ago. We know they had already moved all over the shore. So we want to quickly now summarize and say Hamid started to experience internal failure from old age. We were invaded by the Asians. Now they want to tell that Egyptians were Afro-Asiatic. They were not. Afro-Asiatic came later. Around 2000, Kingdom of Kush in Sudan, Kerema developed, and the Hyksos were driven out by Amos, and 3 times they were driven out. But eventually, the Greeks invaded Hamid, renamed it Egypt in 332 BCE, and the Greeks were also defeated by their cousins, because the Greeks and the Romans are same people, at the Battle of Corinth in 146 BCE. And then the Romans took over. Up to today, we are being ruled by the Romans, because the Arab conquest of Hamid was assisted by the Romans. The Arabs and the Romans are the same people. They are same race, not different race, may have different culture. That's why the Romans or Europeans gave their cousins the so-called Middle East. There was no Middle East, it's all Africa. Our journey from Stardust to today is a story that is being written by you. You are the author of your own destiny. And if you are not smart enough, you are trapped now in the third density, in the physical density today, with your soul and your divine spark there. Of course, just in the fourth density or fourth dimensions exist those that want you, that want your spirit essence. If you are not smart enough, you will never escape this trap. You will be trapped, and you will be recycling and coming back, being an energy source of the aliens that dwell there. Here is your message: become an Aku, so that you may not fall victim to the cycles of these entities, and also to escape the entropy of the waters of Nyunyu. The soul escape is ready for you. You have to live an outstanding life today. There are so many things that we will have to share, that we will give you, and that we will share with you if you subscribe to our channel, if you send us an email, and if you start to study Bound Foundations. You discover many vistas of truths that we cannot share in this public forum, because of time, as well as because of also the limits of what Google as well as YouTube allows. But for more information, we want to simply say, may the gods protect you, imbue you, enrich you, guide you, give you that which our ancestors are calling you to. The choice is yours. We have done our job. Once we have sent this message, we are done. We receive our spiritual credit. So your manager to be preached by LM to Njaganja says, as a member of Marwa Family Network, we know where we are going. We know the Stardust, that is just a suit that we are using on the earth, and that we will live, and the trap is whether you shall be able to live it completely and go higher. Amen. Subscribe, comment, share, and let us walk this journey together.